We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts.
Without ever mentioning his name, Biden appealing directly to angry Trump supporters, but also calling out the lies and mistruths that have divided the nation.
I will be a president for all Americans, all Americans.
After the ceremonies, accompanied by 3 former presidents of both parties, the new president laying a wreath at Arlington National Cemetery, then entering the White House for the first time as chief executive after walking an abbreviated parade route. Biden got right down to work, signing executive orders to undo some of his predecessors' actions, halting the construction of Trump's border wall and rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement.
And Vice President Harris got right to work swearing in 3 new senators, cementing the new Democratic majority in the Senate. Alex Brachet, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
And as Alex mentioned, California now has a new senator this afternoon. New Vice President Kamala Harris did swear in Alex Padilla to take over the seat in the Senate. Padilla is the former Secretary of State. He's now California's first Latino senator. Georgia's 2 new senators were sworn in as well. That gives Democrats control of the Senate.
Former President Trump is now at his home in Florida. Before his term ended this morning, he gave a farewell address to supporters.
Always fight for you. I will be watching, I will be listening, and I will tell you that the future of this country has never been better. I wish the new administration great luck and great success.
Trump suggested that he will still be a public force, saying, quote, "We will be back in some form." But former President Trump's political future is still unclear. ABC 10 News reporter John Horn looks at whether Trump will be able to remain influential in the Republican Party.
Donald Trump is very radioactive at this point.
El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells stands by his vote for Donald Trump.
Aside from his bombastic attitude and his abrasive way of speaking, I thought his policies were really good.
Wells, a Republican, says he watched in horror on January 6th when pro-Trump rioters stormed the Capitol, and he's not sure whether President Trump would be a viable candidate in 2024. Trump has also floated launching a TV network or his own party.
I think it's much better for Trump to use his platform to work within the Republican Party to push for what is the right direction and to find somebody else that can deliver that message without being so abrasive and dividing.
Americans should not have to wait long to learn about Trump's standing in the Republican Party. The first big test, the looming Senate impeachment trial.
This is the time period in which Republicans will finally have to decide where they stand on Donald Trump.
And if Trump doesn't run in 2024?
The question would be, if you're a Republican running for president, do you want his endorsement? And I don't have an answer to that.
But it appears a sizable number of Republicans will still pursue his policies. John Horn, ABC 10 News.
Stay with ABC 10 News for special coverage of the inauguration starting at 8 o'clock. That will be followed by Celebrating America, hosted by Tom Hanks at 8:30, and we'll be back for ABC 10 News at 11 o'clock.
All right, there is a bit of good news on the COVID-19 front. An internal memo from Health and Human Services shows new COVID cases and deaths. They are now actually leveling off in a week-to-week comparison nationwide. Still, our situation does remain dire. The U.S. has surpassed 400,000 deaths, and the Biden administration is faced with the tough task of turning the pandemic around.
We need to make sure that the country, the people understand that this pandemic is now going to be addressed with science, with trust, with transparency.
This afternoon, President Biden did sign an executive order requiring mask wearing on federal property. His team is also aiming for 100 million vaccines in his first 100 days in office. Confusion and delays, though, they continue at the county's vaccine superstation. Long lines, people turned away, and some not able to even schedule their appointments. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo went straight to the county for answers about why this is happening.
Frustration continues to grow at the county vaccine superstation.
It was an absolute disaster.
People like Erica Fung waiting for hours for her 88-year-old grandmother's appointment, eventually leaving because of the traffic.
2 hours in the car with my grandma feeling totally exhausted. It's just, we couldn't wait any longer.
For others, it's the struggle of even making an appointment.
When you get to the final page of the application, boom, no more appointment, gone.
So what is going on? The biggest message from the county?
If you don't have an appointment, please don't come down.
Supervisor Nathan Fletcher acknowledges the delays. The only people being accepted at Petco Park right now are those with appointments in Tier 1A, like healthcare workers and those 75 and over, saying people should check with their healthcare providers for vaccine availability first.
But we ask for folks just a little bit of patience as we work through this. It is a pretty significant logistical undertaking.
The supervisor says stay in line even if it's close to 5 p.m. when the superstation closes.
We will honor your appointment every single day, even if you get there a little bit after time because you couldn't get through.
The county says they just don't have enough vaccines and that they are working out all logistics to improve every day.
We can clean up the traffic and the appointment system and all that, but we've got to move and we've got to get these shots in people's arms, and that's what we're trying to do.
But some worry these delays will have deadly consequences.
I'm computer savvy and I'm experiencing this difficulty. I have to believe tens of thousands of others are, and I have to believe that people will die because of this.
Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
The second vaccine superstation will be in Chula Vista. Supervisor Fletcher says the exact location will be announced tomorrow and will open this week.
From the coronavirus pandemic to the economic crisis to civil unrest, all issues the President Biden is promising to tackle. Coming up, what you can expect to happen during his first 100 days in office. Plus, California's Attorney General is expected to become the first Latino to run the nation's Health and Human Services Department. Why San Diego's Latino community is calling on him to help. Former Chargers quarterback Phillip Rivers retiring from the NFL after 17 seasons. A look back at his career and what could come next. ABC 10 News is back in 90 seconds. If confirmed by the Senate, California Attorney General Javier Becerra will be the first Latino to run the Department of Health and Human Services. As ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer Kastner explains, San Diego's Latino community is calling on him for help.
The state's Democratic Attorney General, Javier Becerra, has been President Biden's pick to lead the nation's top healthcare department. If confirmed to the role, he would mark the first Latino to run it.
He definitely has his work cut out for him. This is a very challenging time, but I can't think of anyone more qualified to lead us through this time.
Nancy Maldonado with San Diego's Chicano Federation spoke to ABC 10 News Wednesday about the significance of minority representation in that leadership position.
There's no more better time to have a Latino leading Health and Human Services than in the middle of a pandemic that has had a devastating impact on the Latino community.
According to the most recent data from San Diego County health officials, the Latino population has been hit the hardest by COVID-19, with more than 100,000 affected, representing more than 50% of the total cases with known race or ethnicity. Maldonado believes that Becerra's role as California's top legal officer has prepared him for this new challenge.
I think that he understands through his work that when we talk about health, we have to talk about things like affordable and stable housing. We have to talk about a living wage. And those are all things that contribute to health, particularly for the Latino community, but really for everybody across the country.
Jennifer Kastner, ABC 10 News.
The Mega Millions lottery is now up to nearly $1 billion. No one matched any of all the six numbers last night, so the jackpot has grown to $970 million. It's the second largest jackpot in the game's history. That next drawing is Friday, but you don't have to wait too long to be a multimillionaire again. Tonight is the drawing for the Powerball. That jackpot has been growing as well. It's now at about $730 million.
This 10 News Pinpoint Weather Report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air. Nobody wows clients like we do.
Meteorologist Leah Pizzetti is joining us now with a look at how long this wind will stick around. Leah.
Kim, that wind is dying down this evening, thankfully. I know it's been a big concern for us, especially as fire crews battle multiple fires in San Diego County. So that is going to be old news for us. I do want to show you this lovely look from our Poway sky camera right now. Live look at our sunset. Absolutely gorgeous. Some pink hues on the horizon as our sun sets on this Wednesday evening. Coronado camera showing downtown right now. You can see a little bit of color in the sky there right now. 70 degrees in San Diego. Humidity fairly high right now, which is helping those crews fight those fires. Winds, like I said, starting to calm down now. We've had those wind advisories in place for the past couple of days. Those are now going to be ending in the next couple of hours. Satellite and radar, you can see we have some light rain in the eastern part of our county. This also will be dissipating in the next couple of hours, calming down into tonight. So heading into tomorrow, much more mild. The sunshine is going to return. Temperatures are going to be right on track with where we should be for this time of year. So 60s along our coast, La Jolla, Imperial Beach looking at 64 degrees for tomorrow, lower 70s as we move inland. Escondido looking at an even 70 degrees for tomorrow. Ramona 68, 50s and 60s for our mountains, 70s for our desert communities for tomorrow. Then we're going to see some changes after a couple days of a break. So you can see this system down to our southwest, and that's been what's bringing us this rain, this light rain, especially to our eastern parts of our region today, really. That is going to push to our east, and then another system is going to push down California's coast and bring us more rain chances by the end of this upcoming week. This is a much more typical storm for us here in Southern California. So after that slight break Thursday and Friday, that cold storm is going to arrive Friday night, bringing us rain chances for Saturday. Another slight break on Sunday, but then a second cold storm is going to be arriving Monday, keeping rain chances in the forecast early into next week. So temperature is taking a massive plummet. You can see 60s to start our week, and then along our coast we are going to be cooling down into the mid 50s as we start out next week. Inland we're going to see 70s, like I said, for tomorrow, and then in the next 7 days cooling down into the 50s as well. So those cold temperatures as we see rain chances Saturday and Monday. Rain chances do look to stick around Tuesday into Wednesday as well. Snow for our mountains. Snow elevations could drop down to 4,000, even lower than that with these cold storms. Deserts also seeing that massive temperature drop as we head into the 50s. So a lot to talk about in the next 7 days. Now that this wind is going to be behind us, we are welcoming this rain.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leah. And now 10 News Time Saver Traffic with Officer Jim Betancourt. Hi, Jim.
And hello to you and everybody watching this evening. Right now, for those of you that are going to be up in the North County on the 78, that's really our busiest spot right now. There was an earlier crash at San Marcos Boulevard. That has both directions really slow through that area. That crash is now clear, so hopefully this should be picking up soon. The 5 at the 94 is looking good. A little bit further north, it's a little slow on that northbound direction through Carlsbad. Southbound side of the 805, watch out for a crash at Imperial. I'm Officer Jim Betancourt with your 10 News Time Saver Traffic.
Jim, thank you. Now let's pay tribute to one of our hometown heroes. This is San Diegan Airman Audrey Kierstead. She's seen here transporting military weapons, also known as ordnance, while aboard the USS Nimitz. Audrey, we do thank you for your service.
Inauguration Day is also move in, move out day at the White House. Coming up, the extra work for crews because of the pandemic.
Skycam Views, sponsored by Carlsbad Solar.
It is not only the residents of the White House that have changed today, but also the decor in the West Wing. The hallway, once filled with pictures from the Trump administration, they're now filled with images of the Biden administration. Right now, that includes framed photographs of Biden's last speech in Delaware and last night's COVID-19 memorial on the National Mall. Moving the Trumps out and the Bidens in was a Herculean task, made even more complicated by the pandemic. ABC's Karen Travers shows how the incredible amount of work accomplished was in just a matter of hours.
A very complicated transfer of power took place today right behind me. A frantic 7-hour period where the White House staff moves the Trumps out and the Bidens in.
Joe Biden spent 8 years working in the White House, but this afternoon he stepped into the historic building as president.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
President Biden's Inauguration Day unlike any other. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic and concerns about security, no crowds on the National Mall, no parade, no inaugural balls. The nation's capital may be quiet today, but here at the White House, it was a flurry of activity. A former chief usher at the White House told ABC it's a well-organized ballet choreography, moving one first family out of the 132-room mansion and moving the next first family in.
Every single person on the team, on the White House residence team, will have a role and a job and a responsibility.
That includes packing up boxes from one family and unpacking for the next.
The beds are stripped, mattresses are removed, new mattresses come in, and then beds are made and bathrooms are ready.
Dozens of butlers, ushers, and maintenance crews do a deep cleaning over the course of about just a couple of hours. But this year, because of the COVID-19 pandemic and at least 3 outbreaks of the virus among the Trump family and staff, the Biden team is bringing in outside contractors to deep clean the White House. Government contracts reviewed by ABC News show that more than $200,000 has been spent for increased White House janitorial and housekeeping work, nearly $75,000 of taxpayer money just to clean the carpets and curtains. The Biden campaign was very strict about their COVID-19 safety protocols, and that will continue into the White House. Masks will be required, social distancing will be enforced. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
From the coronavirus pandemic to the economic crisis to civil unrest, all issues that President Biden is promising to tackle. Coming up, what you can expect to happen during his first 100 days in office. Plus,
when day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade?
a powerful poem recited at today's inauguration will introduce you to the young woman who made history.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
President Biden wasted no time on his first day in office, signing a wave of executive orders on everything from the pandemic to climate change.
Our ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl is going in depth on the new president's agenda during his first 100 days.
In his first few hours on the job, President Joe Biden signed 17 executive actions and promised many more in the days to come.
We'll press forward with speed and urgency, for we have much to do in this winter of peril and significant possibilities.
Biden says he's trying to address 4 overlapping crises in his first 100 days: the pandemic, the economic collapse caused by it, racial inequality, and climate change.
A lot of the language we've seen coming out of the Biden camp is that they can't not do these things urgently just because there's so many pressing issues.
SDSU political scientist Dr. Stephen Goggins says the idea of measuring a president's first 100 days started with FDR, who took office during the Great Depression and helped get a record 76 laws passed in that span.
So it's been invoked rhetorically by many presidents, kind of laying out their agenda, their high priority things that they expect.
Biden's first action was on masks. He's asking Americans to wear them for 100 days and signed an order requiring them in federal buildings and on federal lands. He's also halting the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization. On the economic front, Biden is instructing federal agencies to extend eviction and foreclosure moratoriums through March 31st and asking the Department of Education to extend the pause on federal student loan payments through September 30th. The centerpiece of both his pandemic and economic agendas is a $1.9 trillion rescue package that includes $1,400 in direct payments to most Americans, $130 billion for school reopenings, and $160 billion for vaccines and testing, part of his goal to achieve 100 million vaccinations in 100 days.
And a lot of things he can do with the stroke of a pen. Everything else, right, will take Congress to act. So it might take a bit longer given the possible impeachment trial in the Senate and all the nominations for the cabinet positions.
Dr. Goggins says balancing the impeachment trial of former President Trump with other priorities will be tough, but he says Congress has multitasked before.
We did see in the impeachment trial of President Clinton back in the 90s kind of some pausing of the calendar of the trial while they took on other pieces of legislation.
In the meantime, Biden is reversing executive actions from his predecessor, like halting construction on the border wall, undoing the so-called Muslim ban, rejoining the Paris climate deal, and canceling the Keystone XL pipeline. Biden has promised to introduce an immigration reform bill early in his administration that includes an 8-year pathway to citizenship and allows more refugee admissions. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
The White House says that Biden will sign executive actions every day this month. Tomorrow's orders will focus on the pandemic, and Friday will target the economy.
As we take a live look toward Washington, D.C., all is calm after this morning's inauguration went off without a hitch. And San Diego Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs is joining us now after attending the inauguration earlier today. Thank you for joining us.
Of course, happy to be here.
What was it like today, both your sense of security after recent events and witnessing history?
It was definitely different than previous inaugurations that I've attended because of the pandemic. And there was a huge security presence, had to go through a number of checkpoints before we got inside. But once we were inside the perimeter, it felt very safe. And you could just tell that everyone was feeling really hopeful. There was a lot of excitement in the air. I was sitting in an area with a bipartisan group of members of Congress of new freshmen, and everyone was really excited to turn the page and really get working on what we need to do to rebuild our country.
Well, you tweeted earlier that you've been in Congress for 3 weeks now. The first week there was an insurrection, the second an impeachment, the third an inauguration. So what are you hoping for moving forward?
I'm hoping for a little bit more of a boring time in Congress where we actually just put our head down and get some work done for the American people. I've had a lot of excitement these first 3 weeks, but I'm hoping they're the most exciting 3 weeks I ever have in Congress.
Let's hope so. And let's take it from there. You were just saying you want to get things done. President Biden's message was one of unity today, and many Americans are hoping that our nation can heal, which takes both sides cooperating. Do you see that happening in Congress?
I do. Look, my background is in working in conflict settings, in societies and communities that have been torn apart, much more divided and polarized than our country is right now. And I know that it's possible to come back together and to do the hard work of rebuilding those community ties. So I'm confident that we will be able to get things done. When I talk to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, we know we have to help the American people. We need to get assistance to small businesses, to families. I think everyone feels the urgency of the situation.
We know you have a lot of work ahead, and you're working for all of us San Diegans, so thank you and good luck to you. Congressmember Sarah Jacobs, we appreciate your time.
Well, thank you so much.
One of the most talked about moments of today's inauguration was the speech given by 22-year-old Amanda Gorman, the country's first ever National Youth Poet Laureate, called for unity as she read her poem called The Hill We Climb.
When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. In the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is hours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken.
Gorman is a Los Angeles native who studied sociology at Harvard. She says her preparation for today's address included studying Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln, and Martin Luther King Jr.
Among Donald Trump's final actions in office were dozens of pardons. That includes 2 San Diegans. Duke Cunningham represented San Diego in Congress in the 90s and 2000s. He pleaded guilty in a scandal over taking bribes from defense contractors. He served several years in prison. His case for a pardon was made by former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. Local businesswoman Adriana Shantoya was in prison for making counterfeit 5-hour energy drinks. Her staff mixed unregulated ingredients, then sold millions of bottles pretending it was 5-hour energy. Her case for commutation was made by Chula Vista Council member John McCann. The children of former President Trump will have U.S. Secret Service protection available to them. A senior U.S. official says that before leaving office, that the Trump signed a memorandum extending Secret Service protection by 6 months. Secret Service protection typically applies to children up to 16 years old, but by signing the memorandum, the protection will be provided for all of his children.
Scary moments at a University City school today when a man was spotted walking on the athletic fields with a gun. The ABC 10 News breaking news tracker was there as police handcuffed their suspect outside Stanley Middle School. We are blurring his face because we have not yet been told that he is charged with a crime. Our crew spotted the gun in the trunk of the man's car. Investigators tell us it is possible it's an airsoft gun. There were about 20 staff members on campus at the time doing a food distribution. The school shares its fields with the public. And police recover a 500-year-old stolen copy of a Leonardo da Vinci painting, coming up where they found it. And colon cancer is the third leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S. The simple and inexpensive test that could predict a person's chance of developing it. And 10 News Time Saver Traffic with Officer Jim Betancourt.
Well, we do have a few crashes to talk about. First one's going to be up in the North County, northbound side of the 5 near the rest area through Camp Pendleton. Watch out for that if you're traveling through that area. The 78 struggling to try to get back to normal due to an earlier crash at San Marcos Boulevard. The southbound side of the 805 is going to be busy as you approach Imperial. That's because of an earlier crash through that area. Southbound 15 to the 805 split is going to be a little bit slow, and there's also a crash on the South 15 at Ocean View Boulevard. I'm Officer Jim Betancourt with your 10 News Time Saver Traffic.
Tonight's Staying Healthy report sponsored by San Diego County Credit Union.
A simple and inexpensive test can help alert people to an increased risk of developing colon cancer. Researchers gave that test to nearly 4,000 participants in a study with low-risk symptoms of colorectal cancer. The test costs $6 and detects traces of blood in stool samples. Blood was detected in 618 participants, and 43 of those tests turns into a positive cancer diagnosis within a year. The American Cancer Society says that colon cancer is the third leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S. Just living near a fast food restaurant will not contribute to weight gain in kids. Researchers studied the body mass index of kids from 2004 to 2010 to cover the time when most children changed schools. They found increased exposure to fast food made less than 1% difference in the body mass index of those kids. The results did not change when comparing different economic situations of children. Researchers then concluded that exposure alone does not contribute to weight gain in kids, but of course, eating it does play a factor.
Former Chargers quarterback Philip Rivers is retiring from the NFL after 17 seasons. Coming up, a look back at his career and what could come next. After 17 seasons in the NFL, former Chargers quarterback Philip Rivers announced his retirement today. And as ABC 10 News reporter Steve Smith tells us, from San Diego to Los Angeles to Indianapolis, Rivers' next NFL stop should be the Hall of Fame.
No Zoom press conference, just a statement today from Philip Rivers announcing his retirement after 17 seasons. It was a career that started with a wacky NFL Draft Day trade back in 2004, and it included 13 years in San Diego, 3 in Los Angeles, and 1 final season in Indianapolis. He led his teams to 6 playoff appearances. Scott Yaffe spent 21 seasons in media relations with the San Diego Chargers and says he wasn't surprised by today's announcement.
You know, I was glad to see him have a chance to kind of come back, finish it out, I think, on his terms, you know, and have a chance to play, you know, more importantly, in a city with a fan base that embraced him and appreciated what he brought.
Rivers put up big numbers during his prolific career, but even bigger than the stats was his passion for the game.
You know how much fun he had playing football and how much fun he made it for San Diegans. You know, I just, those days, you know, those Sundays and Mondays and, you know, Qualcomm just used to rock.
Now, while Philip never reached the pinnacle of a Super Bowl, he definitely put up Hall of Fame numbers. as in 8 Pro Bowls, over 63,000 passing yards, and 421 touchdown passes, both of which rank 5th all-time in NFL history.
I'd like to think so. I think it would be a bummer if he didn't get in. I mean, I think there's a criteria that says you have to win a Super Bowl, but you also need a lot of pieces to fall into place to win one of those. He checked off all the boxes, so I think if he doesn't find himself in Canton one day, I think it'd be an utter disappointment.
Steve Smith, ABC 10 News.
Longtime San Diegan, we wish him well. And Rivers is not done with football, as he will be on the sidelines coaching high school football in Alabama. He said it's always been a dream to coach his 2 sons.